Hi, my name is Thomas Crockett, and I'm going to be doing a chapter review on Chapter 4 of our textbook, which is titled Leadership, a Communication Perspective. The title of Chapter 4 is Transformational and Charismatic Leadership, and the opening quote that we get, which is honestly one of my favorite things to read about each chapter. The quote for this is, "The new leader is one who commits people to action, who converts followers into leaders, and who may convert leaders into agents of change." I just thought the wording of that was very interesting and something to think about. I want to now talk about the overview of the chapter and some of the key things that we're going to be reading about and learning about. The first one is the transformational approach to leadership. Then we move on to the characteristics of transformational leadership, which are creative, interactive, visionary, empowering, and passionate. Then we move on to perspectives of charisma and talk about the sociological approach, the behavioral attribution approach, and the communication approach. And finally, we ask the question, transformational and charismatic leadership, interchangeable or distinct? I want to first talk about, I want to move over to the characteristics of transformational leadership and first talk about the creative trait. And it says that transformational leaders are innovative and foresighted. They constantly challenge the status quo by seeking out new ideas, products, and ways of performing tasks. They recognize the satisfaction with the status quo poses a serious threat to group or organizational survival. Um, and so one must be kind of try to find creative ways to keep the status quo. The process of creativity is to clarify the relationship between creativity and leadership. We first need to understand how the creative process works. Creativity, like leadership, is based on our capacity for creating and manipulating symbols. Not only does this work through creative problem solving, but creative ideas nearly always take a particular symbolic form. This can be creative sentences, drawings, slogans, anything like that. It can range from marketing to sales to engineering. There's all sorts of creative aspects. I want to then talk about creative roadblocks that one might have. There are perceptual blocks, emotional blocks, cultural and environmental blocks, and intellectual and expressive blocks. Perceptual blocks are obstacles that prevent the problem solver from clearly perceiving either the problem itself or the information needed to solve the problem. Emotional blocks are any sort of fear that might come with the problem at hand, the fear of failure or the fear of the risk that it might take to try to solve this problem. Cultural and environmental blocks are when society imposes stringent guidelines that inhibit the creative process. If you have a good idea that maybe your culture isn't accustomed to or nobody's really seen before, then that can make it difficult to get it out running on the street and kind of get the ball rolling on that certain idea. And then finally, intellectual and expressive blocks come from using the wrong strategies to solve problems, from being inflexible, or from not having enough information. If someone has a good idea that could be better, but they don't want to listen to other people's ideas, then they're not being flexible. They think that whatever they come up with is right, even if it may not be. That can cause a serious issue and make it difficult to get your problem started or to get your problem fixed, at least. The chapter also talks about becoming a creative leader and what it takes to do that, along with these things that I've already talked about. And it says becoming a creative leader means thinking more creatively yourself, while at the same time helping followers develop their creative abilities. To achieve these goals, leaders need to adopt a problem-finding perspective, learn to tolerate failure, and focus collective attention on innovation. And this was probably so far one of my favorite chapters, just kind of all the things that it takes to become a leader and all the things that you need to learn how to do creatively. Thanks for listening.